evening. Good evening. Welcome to Detroit in Black and White, our Wednesday evening edition. I'm going to introduce the co-host first, and then I want to talk to our peeps out there in YouTube land or wherever. Good evening. We have Allan Lengel, formerly worked at the Washington Post, owner of Deadline Detroit. We have dubbed him East Side Al. What's up, Al? What's up, Allan?
What's up? What's up? Good evening.
And we also have Jim Nardone, the former chief of police for the Trenton Police Department. He is out traveling between it's like three of us. We're always traveling. But good evening, Jim. How are you?
Good evening. I hate former. You're talking about us former. You're making us sound like we're relevant. Maybe that's.
Oh no, you're very relevant. You're relevant because you're here on Detroit in Black and White. You know that.
Deadline Detroit's still live for everybody that's watching tonight. Deadline Detroit.
Relevant. So, let me say this. Good evening, Janet. Overall, Angela Beatty, Stephanie Jackson, Dorian Denard. Good evening. And you guys know what we want y'all to do. You know what we want y'all to do. We want you to like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. And tell all your friends about Detroit in Black and White. We're trying to get these subscriptions up. We're over 700 right now, but we want 1,000. And from 1,000, we want 2,000. I was going to make a bad joke, but I guess I'll save it for later on because, there's this controversy about somebody giving 1,000, what's that, $1,200 at the church? I know you guys have heard about that.
I have not.
We talked about the church on the show years ago, but we'll get there. So good evening, everybody. So we're going to go around and talk about, let's start off with, let's talk about Eastside Al. Technically, she's right. Dorian says, let's talk about our outrage, Allan. Do you have an outrage today?
I do have some outrages from Washington, and then I want to mention some new polls that have come out. There's a new poll out in the mayor's race, and there's an internal poll out on the governor's race. I mean, there's just so many things coming. I mean, Trump wants the Justice Department to give him $230 million for him being wronged for the investigations that he committed criminal acts. They were legitimate indictments. And now he's asking the people who he installed in the Justice Department, who were previously his attorneys, to give him $230 million. He says, I'm going to donate it. I don't believe that. And the other thing is they've torn down the whole east wing of the White House for a $300 million ballroom at a time when the government shut down, when people are the economy is going up. They're making cuts in government. He says it's going to be paid by personal money. Again, I don't believe it. And so, I mean, I don't know. But then, I guess we can go around the horn before we start talking about the polls and stuff. So
okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So let me ask you this, Allan. You said that you outraged about the administrator asking for all this money and then says he's going to donate it. And you're also outraged that they're torn down the
East Wing.
portion of the East Wing, and they're going to build a ballroom. Let me throw this out at you. Isn't it that people wanted smaller government?
But yeah, I mean, it's just insane what we talk about cutting. Imagine the parade that he had, the military parade to celebrate the military and his birthday for $250 million, whatever it ended up costing. You know how many jobs, when they're talking about cutting jobs and services, how many jobs that could maintain over how many years? And so we're not, in the end, when you see the big, beautiful budget, there's a greater debt. It's not even like they're saving money. They're just shifting money around. They're saving money for wealthy people, less taxes. They're doing all these things that are not really benefiting the greater good. So I just, and you talk about a smaller government. I mean, the White House, who gives, it's the people's, it says it's the people's house. So, everyone's going to benefit. You and I aren't going to any fucking banquet.
How you know I'm not going to a banquet?
Well, if you do, it'll be one and out.
How you know I'm not going to the banquet?
All right. Well,
reality is this.
I lived in Washington. I lived in Washington for 14 years. I could have gone a tour of the White House, and I knew some Secret Service people who could have got me around, but I didn't have a great interest in that. But it's our White House, but we're not getting invited to spend the night at the Lincoln. And I frankly, and with this administration, I would have to sleep with one eye open.
Well, you know what? You would be invited now because you're too liberal, so they're not. They wouldn't invite you anywhere. But but at any rate, Jim, what is your outrage?
Hi, Janet. Hey, Dorian, Karen. I'm looking at some of the names here. I know you're going to cover them. Tracy. Hey, Tracy.
Right on, Janet.
Yeah.
Stephanie Jackson. Our friend Stephanie Jackson. I'm trying. Angela Beatty. Beatty or Beatty? Sorry if I got it wrong.
That's my cousin.
Hi, cuz. So here, let's start with this. First, we've been communicating with Adolph tonight, and he will be on Friday with a guest, LaShawn D. Davis, who's a paralegal, author, speaker, resilient paralegal, author, and speaker who turned her lived experience in a foster care system into a powerful message of healing and hope. Hey, Dominique. So hopefully you'll tune in Friday. I want to give that a little bump there on Friday. And I want to talk about this judge in Ohio. His last name is Barry. I guess his dad was the first black mayor of Cincinnati. Well, he's apparently said some negative things about Mr. Charlie Kirk, the deceased Charlie Kirk. And I think we need to refocus our process here, right? I don't agree with what he said, but the people elected him to a judgeship. So the people are the ones, not the Ohio legislature, that should be removing Judge Barry, in my opinion, my humble opinion. We need to refocus our thoughts on so if Charlie Kirk is a First Amendment absolutist,
right,
and Judge Barry said these horrible things about Charlie Kirk, why don't we move on? Why don't we let Judge Barry and the lady I saw earlier calling Charlie Kirk Hitler, let them speak for themselves, and let's let them embarrass themselves if that's what they're going to do. I'm not saying he did that. My point is, he can say whatever he wants. He was elected by the people. The legislature has no business getting involved in it. If the community wants to recall Judge Barry, let the people recall Judge Barry or anybody else, or just take your business elsewhere. He's allowed to say whatever he wants. I understand he's representing the government, but he's still an elected judge.
So let me say this. I do know that judges, once they're elected or selected, however it goes, that they're supposed to, stay away from politics, okay? Because they want you to be impartial. I find it very hypocritical because when you run for judge, the first thing they want to know is, are you a Democrat or a Republican? So, I mean, if that is not political, I don't know what is. The other thing is, like to your point, Jim, we have what we have. We have what we call the United States Constitution. You have the First Amendment. You can say what you want to say, but we also know that when you take the chance of saying things, that you may have to pay the consequences of saying these things. So I think that you have to take all these things in consideration when you start running your mouth. I know I do. I know that when I say certain things like, man, how is this going to go over with people, that kind of thing. I agree with you. I think that the people who elected him should be the people who deselect him, if that be the case. He will probably get some kind of grievance or something like that. I'm not familiar with the story at all, other than what you're telling me. But I just think it's ridiculous, and I find it very interesting that the decedent could say whatever the heck he wanted to say, And because people repeated what he said, and said, he said these things, I didn't like it, whatever, you want to crucify those people. That I have a big problem with that. You can't throw a rock and not expect for a rock to be thrown back at you. Yeah, whether you're here or not, I agree with you that we need to move on. I don't know when the man made the comments or anything like that, but I do have a question to ask you. Is he related to the former mayor of D.C., the deceased Marion Barry? Do you know?
He is not Marion Barry, the mayor of Cincinnati.
Okay.
I don't believe he's real. I'm not sure. I don't believe so. Derrick Henry, Taylor, hello. You don't like my music? Go ahead, Alan.
I think, and I'm not sure when you're talking about the people should deselect him. The people, they can't recall him. It has to go through. Actually, the most obvious way is a legislative impeachment of him. But I was going to say, it's insane, as you say, Charlie Kirk, who stood for free speech and everything like that. You know, the American government has been revoking visas of some some immigrants here who have visas because they have posted negative things about Charlie Kirk. It's amazing. It's like, you know, you talk about Tucker Carlson, Mr. Free Speech. He got mad the other day. He had some kind of forum, and some kid was challenging him. And then the kid said, "Oh, Jesus Christ." He goes, "Just lighten up." And he said, "That's it. You've used Jesus' name in vain. That's it. I don't want to hear from you." And it's when we listen to the president of the United States, what he says, it's like total immunity from anything. And this guy's an expression, you know, whether you're religious or not, and you find it offensive, to a lot of people, that's a expression in everyday, you know, vernacular. And so it's just amazing the selectiveness. It's like I wrote the president of Hillsdale College, and I asked him if he'd maybe write a column about they're in love with the Constitution at the Hillsdale College. But I asked him, I said, I'd like your opinion on Donald Trump violating the different constitutional amendments and how that plays with Hillsdale College. And I haven't heard back from him, but I would love to see all these lovers of the Constitution who want to shut down free speech in every single way they can. And they scream about oppression of speech and stuff.
You know, what would be cool if Adolph was here, because I like to hear what he has to say about both of your outrages. So I have a question that I want to address, or a statement that I want to address by one of our viewers. I don't think he's on here tonight, but I want to address it. And then I want to talk about my outrage. Mr. 1213, I watched a segment of the show. I don't know, one of last week's show. I don't know if it was Wednesdays or Friday, but he indicated that he was disappointed that I did not watch the debate. And I think I said on Wednesday, I didn't watch the debate because I had an engagement last Wednesday. Therefore, I could not watch the debate, but I planned on watching the debate. The debate that I'm talking about is the debate between the mayoral candidates. That would be Pastor Kinlock and Councilwoman Mary Sheffield. So I did watch it. And my take on it is that, you know, Allan, I know you watched it. I don't know, Jim, if you watched it. I know Adolph watched it. I think that people saw a different side of Pastor Kinlock, but I thought it was a typical debate. They went back and forth. I'm sitting there being objective. If somebody is saying somebody won it, I didn't see it. I didn't see it on either side. I really didn't. I think he made some really great points. I think she made some really great points. I think she was very poised. I think that he did what he had to do. I do think that voters need to see people. When you're making these deals and you're in these back rooms talking to people and you're trying to negotiate deals on behalf of your constituents, you got to show people that you're tough. You got to show people that you can handle it. And I think we saw that with both candidates. And I think it's important that the voters see that. So, Mr. 1213, I did see it. And that is my take on it. Like I said, there were people who said, hey, I think she did a great job, and they, giving high fives, and they said the same with him. And, they did, but did somebody win? As far as I'm concerned, no, not at all. That's my take on it.
A lot of great comments, Vanessa. Maybe we should take a break and then.
Oh, yeah, we'll take comments, go to the break, and then we'll come back to you, Allan. Okay?
Hello, Detroit. This is Deputy City Clerk Andre Gilbert, reminding you that early voting begins Saturday, October 25th, and runs through Sunday, November 2nd. You can cast your ballot at one of our 9 early vote centers from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. In this general election, we will elect the mayor, city council, city clerk, and other city officials who will shape our future. To find the location nearest to you or to learn more, visit us at detroitmi.gov/elections or call us at 313-876-0190. I'd like to personally invite you to our Party at the Polls block party on Saturday, October 25th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 2978 West Grand Boulevard, as we proudly kick off early voting. Let your voice be heard and vote early. Our future is in your hands.
We're back, Detroit in Black and White, Wednesday evening edition. Listen, I want to tell all of you guys that are watching this show, thank you so much. We also want you to ask you to do this. We want you to like, subscribe, and share. We got some new viewers here, but we also want you to tell your people about the greatest show on these YouTube streets. I want to say good evening to Jen. Overall, she says her friends and she and her friends ask questions. Are we on another planet? Is this real? What world is this? Stephanie Jackson says, are you mad about the money? She's asking you, Allan, are you mad about the money paid to Queen B? Doela Boy, she said, hey, y'all. And I say, hey, y'all. Hey, girl. Hey. Dominique say, hey, y'all. Marcia Gilmore, she said, love the glasses. Thank you. You love the specs. Hey, Cheryl White. Hey, girl. Dorian Denard said, Barry, that B set me up. And he laughed. He's talking about the former mayor of D.C. Taylor Vernice says, what about the horrible things Trump has and is saying? You don't like my music, said even Hitler didn't say some of the stupid racist BS Charlie Kirk did. Due process isn't a thing nowadays. Excuse me. Derek Henry said, good evening, family. Don't like my music. He said F Charlie Kirk. I can say that because he's not American.
You can say that if you are American.
Exactly. Dorian says he still don't know who Charlie Kirk is. Eric Brown says he agreed with Ed Sarpolis that it was a draw. See, I didn't even know that Ed Sarpolis said that, but I looked at it and
if you read Deadline Detroit, you would have known that.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm kidding you. He was. I did quote him after because I wanted somebody who I think Ed has a good eye for that stuff, and Ed said he thought it was a draw. Although he said that Kinloch started off slow and that he really picked up steam and that he had a better closing than Mary, but he said all in all it was a draw, which Kinloch can't afford a draw at this late stage of the game.
So Deborah Harris says hello. You don't like my music, says be careful, Jim. Stephanie.
He's always looking out for me, my brother out there. I appreciate it.
Unlawful entry.
I'm not worried about it.
Unlawful
they
entry.
want to lock me up, they can lock me up.
She says unlawful entry into the U.S. does not require due process. Removal is the process. So, Allan, you want to say something before I get to my outrage. What was it that you want to say?
To be honest, I can't remember now. But go ahead.
Is that a seasoned moment?
I'm getting over COVID, so I am
again.
I got it on. It's my second time I've had it in 5 years or whatever.
Oh my gosh!
I had it in April 2021. I went to a wedding in Ferndale. It was a super spreader. Like out of 120.
Let's not talk about a super spreader because y'all talked about my part.
I think you don't like my music, so nobody's watching us, so we don't have to worry about it. Come on, you don't like my music? Everybody's watching.
Yeah, I like that. But anyways.
So this is my outrage, and I'm laughing, but I'm really serious. You know, in this age and time, things are real different. We used to be able to go into a bank, actually talk to a teller, and conduct our business. Now, when you go to the bank, a lot of banks don't even have, they have really weird hours. They've taken away the drive-through. They want you to do everything, using a kiosk or whatever. So I have a friend, and she's a friend of Show and a friend of mine, and she told me I could use her name. Hey, Cynthia.
Jill too. Hey, Jill, we're glad you made it.
Hey, you on time, girl.
Favorite order.
So Tracy Huff told me this morning, she said, hey, I didn't tell you what happened to me. She went to the bank, and actually it was a credit union. And she said, I took out $180. And at the kiosk, they ask you, how do you want the money? And she said she asked for two $50 bills, because she got 280. She had 20s and a 5. So however, it came up to $180, but she had two $50 bills. She goes to enjoy herself. She met some friends, and she goes to the casino. This is the same day. She take the money that she got out of the bank. And guess what? She couldn't use the money because the $50 bill, one of the $50 bills that she got from the bank, was counterfeit.
Wow.
Goes back to the bank with the receipt. And when you go through, when you go in the lobby there, because they got rid of the drive-through, and a lot of banks, you get rid of the drive-through, right? So you have to use technology to do everything. She goes with the receipt. She says, I know that you guys have a video of me here. They told her they couldn't do anything about it. They don't know whether or not that was the $50 bill that she got at the bank. Here's the rub. Why is it that she's lucky that the casino didn't call the dang on police and they arrested, and she wasn't arrested for trying to pass along counterfeit money? This is very serious.
I'll write a story about that.
Absolutely. The fact that you can go to a bank and they feel like they don't have to take responsibility, that they're not going to take responsibility, because guess what? This could not happen. Clearly something was going on in the bank. For the bank, whoever took the money, processed the money, there was a failure in the system. But can you imagine what would have happened if they had called the police for her trying to pass on counterfeit money? And the fact that we don't have access to banking as institutions like we used to, I think it is outrageous. I think it does us a disservice, because guess what? You don't have a problem with taking our money. You don't have a problem with taking our money and then telling us when we can get it and how we can get it. That is outrageous. I just couldn't believe it. When she went to the bank to try to have it rectified, they told her, file a report and we'll do an investigation. So fortunately, it was $50, but clearly it was her $50.
Right.
And for
$50.
$50, yes. Because I tell people all the time, $1 would change my lot in life, okay? So $50 is a nice piece of change. But I think that is outrageous. I think it is ridiculous. And I think that place should be called out. That's why I'm calling it out. That is crazy.
What can you say what bank?
Tracy, put the bank in there. She said it was three $50 bills, one $20 bill, and two $5 bills.
And they should have that on video, regardless of what they said. Our friend Tracy knows what she did. She walked in there. She's a client or a customer of that bank. That bank should not treat her like that.
Can you imagine how they may have treated other people? That's
right.
That's crazy. And
I hope you can tell us what bank it is.
I don't believe our friend Tracy will stand by it. I mean, she's people get pushed around. I don't see Tracy getting pushed around.
She told him that. She said when she went to the bank, she said, so I'm supposed to be without my money? And they said, well, you just file a report and we're going to investigate it. Fortunately, it fortunately was her. And people can tell you, I can be hot sometimes, but most of the time I'm even keel. I probably would have went ballistic
Is that the name of it? D People Driven Credit Union?
D People Driven Credit Union.
I've never heard of it, but
and it's in Southfield.
okay.
Yeah,
I read about that.
Yeah. So they're passing. You go.
I mean, there's no way really.
They're gonna get counterfeit money.
Right.
Who goes to the bank and think that?
Right. I think clearly they have to have some faith and say, okay, yeah, we saw you took out the money. They can't see from the camera whether it's fake or not. I mean, they could be, they're so skeptical. They're saying, well, who knows? You went home, you brought back a fake bill for us, and now you want $50 back. But they can't tell from they don't have track of every serial number of every bill that they dish out. That's only the FBI does that when they do a sting. They make sure they know every serial number.
Well, that's interesting. Yesterday, I was giving back too much change at a restaurant.
Oh, it's People Driven Credit Union.
I returned the money. They act like I was from Mars, or like, are you serious? You're giving us back our money? It's not my money, right? Yeah. The bank needs to stand up and do what's right for their client and our friend. Absolutely. And everybody that's watching tonight and all their friends, they need to let them know that, if they don't value Tracy, then
I mean, look, there has to be some I was shopping at Myers on Jefferson. I went out and I forgot that under the card, at the bottom of the card, I had like a decongestant or something like for $13. I got to the car and said, oh shit, that wasn't in the bag. I went back in and said, hey, they were shocked that I came back in. I said, hey, I forgot to pay for this. And they were like, oh my God.
Right, that's how it was with me yesterday.
But you know what? For me, this is what I'm thinking. We put our money in banking institutions, right? And we're the clients that get, to me, they just poop on us, basically. They tell us when we can bank, how we can bank, how we cannot bank. As I said, they take away the the drive-through, because I used to go through the drive-through, right? Then they shorten the hours of when you can go into the lobby. But more importantly, they want everybody to use the kiosk to put money in, to get money out. And I have a problem with that because, one, you can't trust, as proven by, we have proof by Tracy's interaction, we can't be assured that we're going to get what we paid for. If I put my money in there and I want to take it out, I need to be able to take it out. I need to be assured that the money that I get out is real money. I don't have the expertise to have that little pen that they might take the little marker to see whether or not the money is counterfeit or real. And who would think to do something like that if you got the doggone money from the bank? That's just crazy to me. She said it was an old $50 bill, but she was really upset about that and embarrassed. You hanging out with your girls, you at the casino. Yeah, Tracy, I'm telling them you were at the casino.
She didn't go to the casino. Her money. It's her money.
I tell you, ma'am, this is counterfeit. Now I'm laughing, but it really is not a funny matter. That is outrageous and ridiculous.
It's embarrassing. I mean, because she's a suspect immediately. Like,
absolutely.
And not the bank. The bank isn't a suspect. She is.
Exactly.
Hey, G Money Hollywood, thanks for catching up. MZ Suzuki.
Yeah.
The banks are providing clues to the future. Cashless society. There was another one. Deborah Harris. There was another one from Deborah here. I'm missing somewhere.
Yeah, she said GFCU Financial.
Miss Sheila. Thank you. Yeah.
So I don't know how you guys feel about a cashless society. I don't like it, but we see it all. I see it all the time. When I was out of town this past weekend, they want us to use a card for every doggone thing. And I did not like that at all, because I feel like I really don't have a lot of control over it. And then don't get me started talking about paying bills. I went to pay a bill today. Well, do you want us to do automatic? No, I don't want you in my business like that. No, I will pay you when I pay you, period. No, you're not going to go into my account and take my money out. I'm not a fan of this new cashless society at all.
I've been to the airport.
Get other money. I'm glad you have more than $180 in the bank. Go ahead, Allan.
I've been to the airport where they say, sorry, no cash for, food stands or whatever. But the other day I was at a bakery in Oak Park and I was just getting a couple rolls and they said, it's under $3. We're going to have to charge extra for your credit card. And I had cash, so I paid cash. But, we're seeing less and less of cash. When I used to go to when we had our office in the Ford building on Griswold, I would go to the PNC right there on Congress in Griswold. And I used to go all the time. And I got to know some of the people there. And they were, at some point, they sat me down and said, come here, we want to show you how to use the app. You can deposit checks. You don't have to come in here anymore. And they were discouraged. They were sort of ushering people into that era of technology. It's the same thing with newspapers. I mean, they're hoping one day never to print another paper where they have to load them up on the trucks and hire truck drivers and printers and stuff like that. They'd love for everyone just to be online. So.
Yeah, well, I think technology can be great, and it is great in some instances, but it's not the king, and it's not a situation where you don't have errors. And clearly there was an error, but guess what? Because we rely on this machine, and because we're the bank, it could not have been a mistake. You had to have done something wrong. Big problem. And I have a big problem with that whole cashless thing. As Ms. Suzuki says, you can't even use cash at Little Caesars Arena. Nope, you can't use it at the Detroit Opera House either. You have to use a card. If you want to get something to drink, you want to get something to eat, they want you to use a card. Everybody is not banked. Everybody don't have a card. Everybody doesn't have a card.
So at Ford Field, you can put your money in a machine and it'll give you a card.
Yeah.
Also, you're going to buy plastic.
Exactly.
So and that card, you buy plastic. So you're going to buy a card, and that's not free. So you're buying a card, right, to use a card at their business.
And how do you get the exact number, right? You buy a $50 card, and then you might spend $46, and they still come out ahead. You're going to keep spending until you break even, I guess. So
how do you allow this to happen, though, Jim?
I don't know.
I do. We talk about it all the time. It's our legislatures.
Oh, okay.
We know how that happened. It's our legislatures.
When we get a chance, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to back up about something Allan said earlier. I think was pretty relevant. But go ahead, Vanessa.
Speaking of legislatures, I do want to say this. We had during the break, we had a commercial, and the commercial was vote. I encourage to vote, but I encourage people to vote intelligently. Don't just vote. Because when you just go and vote, you don't know what you're getting. Vote intelligently. I tell you to vote, but I'm encouraging you to vote intelligently. That's my public service announcement for tonight. Go ahead, Allan.
Well, I'm going to say it's interesting. There was a poll that came out by the Detroit News, WDIV. The polling group is called Lengel, and I have to say that the polls of after being total failures like in 2020, the pollsters have tried to figure out how to get the people with cell phones, because a lot of the landlines are gone now. They used to rely on landlines. Now they're relying on text and cell phones and landlines as well. And some of the polls are very accurate. So here we have a poll that just comes out today where Mary Sheffield is leading Reverend Kinloch by 50 points, like 64 to 53 or something like that. Or I'm sorry, 64 to whatever. But it's by 50 points. And so the question becomes, if it's close, if it's like 5-point difference, even a 10-point difference, you might be skeptical. But 50 points to me is pretty damning. And Kinloch did come out. He's going to be on this weekend. He'll be on Flashpoint, and so Flashpoint released a little video of that, and he says, "I don't know who that poll is talking to because I'm out here on the street every day, and that's not the feedback we're getting. The only poll I'm concerned about is the poll that people go to on November 4th when they go to the polls, and at 8 o'clock when it closes." that will be the word of the land. And I mean, I think the primary where Mary got 51%, he got 17%. I think that's a huge gap that's really hard to close. And the debate was a good start for him, but it's a late start, late in the game. I don't know that he can close that gap. That's just my opinion. Could be totally.
Let me say this though, Allan. Let me say this. Once you're in a race, because I've run for office, even though intellectually you've been told, you looked at the polls, you looked at the numbers, you know that you're a long shot. You still have to continue the race. You can't just lay down and say, yeah, they won. So to me, he's doing the things that he should do. He's saying the things that he should say. The only part that matters is when the fat lady has sung. That's the only thing because when you're in it, if you're in it and if you're being really competitive, and you're really running, he's doing the things that he's supposed to do. I could give less than a doggone about a poll. And when you get in that headspace, you don't care what people say. You was like, you know what? Yep, I know this is going to be hard. I know, but I just may have a scintilla of a chance of eking this out. And so the polls, to me, when we talk about the polls, and some people say there's some validity to the polls, some people say they're not. I'm one of those people who waffle. I go back and forth, okay? Because I do know that people pay for polls, so
look, but this is one that was solicited by WDIV and Detroit News. The thing is, people want to be dismissive of polls sometimes, and you can be dismissive and say polls are bullshit. But when they try to dismiss it by saying, oh, it's only 500, 400, 600 people, those are people that selectively are picked, computerized by zip code, by race, by age, and all that stuff. So it's the best cross section that the pollsters can get to. I tell you, Ed Sarpolis, he predicted when Haley Stevens in the primary was against Levin, he predicted 20%. That she was going to win by 20% in the primary. The 11 people called me up after I published that poll and were saying, Ed Sarpolis sucks and this is bullshit and guess what? Haley Stevens won by 20%.
It's called denial.
Yeah, and so but I'm saying that when people are dismissive and say, oh, it's only 600 people out of whatever, but those are a cross-section, computerized, picked of different sections, generic, age-wise, sex, geographic, economic, areas and stuff like that, and likely voters in certain, they say likely voters. So certain zip codes are more likely to vote, collectively than other zip codes. And so together, that's the way. Well, look, Duggan has a 82% approval rating in Detroit.
Listen.
Hey, Gabe Johnson. Good evening.
Listen, who was that brought Duggan up? Nobody has said anything ever since he announced that he supports Councilwoman Mary Sheffield. He has been MIA. So the citizens are paying the mayor of the city of Detroit, and we haven't seen him. He's been missing in action. We're going to shoot to commercial. I know that's where you were going. We're going to shoot to commercial, then we're going to come back. Detroit in black and white.
Hello, Detroit. On Tuesday, November 4th, a general election is scheduled to elect the mayor and other city officials. Please return your absentee ballot by mail, drop box, or at the Department of Elections. Polls open at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. You can ride the DDOT buses to the polls for free. To find your polling place, visit our website or call 313-876-0190. So let your voice be heard and vote.
Hi, I'm Eric Sabri, your Wayne County Treasurer. If you're living in the home of a deceased family member and you're facing property tax foreclosure, the probate process can be helpful to you. If you file a probate petition and notify our office, the foreclosure proceedings will be halted during the probate process. Contact us at 313-224-5990 or email us at taxinfo@waynecounty.com. We're here to help.
we're back. Detroit Black and White, our Wednesday evening edition. I want to give a shout out to Miss Suzuki, Dorian, Denard, Eric Brown, G Money Hollywood, Miss Sheila, David Porter.
Dorian's always right on. I mean, Dorian can
so I'm going to read some of these comments. So we have Dorian, who says tons of fake cash out here. He says be suspicious of the Bitcoin thing. He believes that what happened to Tracy was an inside. It was a good chance that it was an inside job. I totally agree. I don't know what Miss Sheila is talking about, but she says that's discrimination. Eric says something about the poll. Sheila says vote for policy, please. Dorian says if you voted intelligently, you wouldn't vote. Citizens United is the causation of voter apathy mixed with conspiracy theories. David Porter said, finally, I'm thinking he's talking about Pastor Kinlock. I'm not sure. Eric says that poll, Allan, still only had a sample size of 400 to 500 people. G Money says the polls are not at all an adequate measurement of where people are leaning. However, I do think that she will win in a landslide. I hope he makes it close. I would like to see a nail biter. Eric says also he was already scheduled to be on Flashpoint. David says he has been lying down since the primary. So Dorian says he should have run for Congress. Gay Johnson, hey Gay, thank you for watching Detroit Black and White. That's one of my sorors. Jill Sheridan says she's always wondered who they were polling. I think a lot of people have a tendency to not participate in them. I couldn't agree more. I'm going to tell about my experience. Allan, Eric said he's taken a methodology as well as a qualitative analysis course. A sample size for a poll of less than 500 people with an electorate base of over 300,000 is not reliable. And he said, by the way, he received an A in both classes. I'll say
that most polls are.
Let's let Allan respond.
Right. I got to say this. Not accepting cash is discrimination, is what Ms. Sheila said.
Yeah.
And I agree with her. Okay, go ahead, Allan.
I would say most polls are between 400 and 600 people, whether they're statewide polls or city polls. So Eric and I may differ on that. I think that you can find an adequate number that, look, if you keep screwing up and you're that off and you're only using a certain number, then you say, okay, maybe I need 500 or 600, or 700, whatever it might be. But I think normally that's pretty typical between 400 to 600.
And how do we know they close the polls 5 minutes after and there's 5% of the vote in and they're calling elections? So there's some indicator. I mean, it's the same kind of thing, right?
Well, I think, we've had, when I was at the Detroit News, and I know the Detroit Free Press had it, they had people doing exit polling where they were asking people in certain precincts and doing samplings and stuff. By the end of the day, they would get some idea, but not always. I think the 2016 presidential election was so close. The Free Press called Hillary Clinton in Michigan at 9 p.m. and then they had to withdraw that at 11 p.m. and say it's too close. And then Trump won Michigan. So they've been wrong there as well, even though it's a scientific methodology to use.
So this past weekend, within a half an hour, I got a text message and asked me if I would answer this polling question. They asked me these questions. I answered them. A few minutes later, I get the same text again, and I answered the questions differently. Okay, so I wonder what they're going to use. They had to know that, it was my phone number. They have everybody's information, but I thought it was very interesting. I have only been called on the telephone once to participate in the poll, and because of my personality, I'm like, I'm not participating in this. Get off my phone.
Yeah. And everybody participates. a lot of people don't respond. We get texts, now we get texts asking if you want to take a poll.
Hey, MZ was polling people when they were a sophomore at MSU. Some people would rather tell you about their sex life or to tell you the truth about who they voted for, and they probably are exaggerating, MZ.
Right.
Yeah. I wanted to go back to something Allan said, if we could, if you guys are ready.
Yep, ready.
Allan talked about people from overseas, musicians are being turned away at the border, these kind of things. And I met somebody this week. Interesting story. I'll call her a young lady. She was a little older than me, but she was married to a U.S. citizen. He was in the military. She met him. She said in 1963, so she's a couple years older than me. But anyway, she was born in France, but she grew up in Germany. She's German. And she was communicating to me that a lot of the friends that she has that come down to Florida and these other places are afraid to speak out against the United States government for fear of retaliation by the government. And that's how politics affect real lives. And I had forgotten until Allan brought it up. But she said, I'm on the phone all the time with people in Germany. She's a widow. Her husband died. He's buried in the veteran cemetery not too far from here. So, they gave to this country, and now they're walking on pins and needles, wondering if they say something negative about the government, if they're going to come and she's going to end up back in Frankfurt where she owns a home.
I just want to clarify that people don't understand. We have a Constitution, and one of the amendments is the First Amendment. The Constitution does not just apply to people who are U.S. citizens. It applies to people who are in the United States, whether you're visiting, whether you're a citizen, whether you're on a green card or whatever. So when the government says we don't have to keep these visas of people who speak out and say negative things, I mean, there were such benign things. At least one of the comments I saw of a guy, I think from South Africa, made some benign comment about, Charlie Kirk that was not, crazy out of bounds, and they've had their visa pulled. It's like it's not a club. The Constitution isn't like, oh, you've got to be a club member to have protection from that. It's not like insurance or whatever. It's for everyone, and it's really, they're making a mockery of the Constitution.
And you have 70, 80-year-old people that have been in this country 30, 40 years that are afraid that they're going to be sent back. So there's fear out in the community, which it has some impact.
Yeah. I'm going to go to some of our commenters, co-hosts. G. Millie Hollywood made a comment based upon something that I said. He said, Vanessa, the current mayor is concentrating more on his race for the governor's seat, and I don't blame him. His tenure is up, and now he is just showing up when he feels it matters. Detroit is pro-Duggan. Well, Detroit very well may be pro-Duggan, but I find I'm really hard-pressed when you have highest poverty rate, you have so many kids who are failing in the public school system. You have a high crime rate. You have a bill that's coming due. I don't know how people can continue to be pro-Duggan. Because you know what? I think you're going to say this. I'm not sure, but I'll say this. People have bought into the narrative that, guess what? He saved Detroit. Detroit rose from the ashes, and look what he's done to Detroit, because that really is what he's running on. Look what I've done for Detroit. And I'm not saying he didn't do anything. I would be lying if I said that. What I'm saying is, to paint a picture as if everything is perfect and everything is great, I think is wrong, and it's dishonest and it's disingenuous. And while his tenure may be up, his tenure is not up until we have a new mayor. You are supposed to still be on the job, not on the job running for another office.
I'll agree. I'll agree with you on that. You have to finish the job until you're still getting paid. You're using it as a platform for the governorship. But what I'm going to say, two things. One, is the city better since he took office in 2013 over the last 12 years? I'd say yes. Is there still a ton that needs to be done, including the poverty level and all that kind of stuff, crime? The answer is yes. There's still, it's a job that's never done. But I was going to say on the school system, you know, one of the reasons we have the schools the way they are is because we accept it.
Right.
We accept it. We don't know who the school board members are. You know, the majority of people. We don't know the superintendent, what he's doing, what he's not doing. I know when I drive down Woodward, there's a big billboard about Oak Park schools, like come to our schools. People are cherry picking off the students here because they can offer something better. And why we tolerate a public school system in a city that we call great and that we brag about is like, that's something we can't really brag about. And it's an integral part of a city that has families and children. And we allow it. We say it's okay.
Well, and thank you to Bragg 921. He's saying that he's not a supporter of Mike Duggan, and there's a lot of Detroiters that do not support Mike Duggan. So
yeah,
we're glad to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in tonight.
Yeah.
We appreciate everybody tonight.
I don't know. That's what G Money Hollywood believes, and I think that's what we see. We see the power broker saying he is the guy. We support him. Detroit is better off than it was 12 years ago or however many years ago when he came into office. Does it look better downtown? Yes, it does.
But G Money is also saying that I don't think your vote matters, and I'm not sure I can disagree with him.
Right. So to that, your point, Allan, I do agree that the city does look better, and there has been some positive things, but there's some things that you have to answer for. Listen, how is it that you have such a high poverty rate? How is it that you have a crime rate and you've spent all this money on spot shooter and all these different kind of programs to try to address crime? How can you can't just walk away from that or make it appear as if it doesn't exist? It does exist. So my thing is this: when you are an elected official, you're going to get the praises, but you're also going to get, you're going to get the criticism. And it seems to me that when people criticize, oh, you just don't like me. No, I expect something from you. I expect better from you. You say you the biggest, the brightest, and the best. Well, give us the best. And the best is not leaving your job 3, 4, 5 months before your job is up. That's not the best.
Well, unfortunately, I think we see that in a lot of instances when people start running for office. Is Jocelyn Benson doing her job as Secretary of State? We don't know, but she's campaigning.
The same goes for her too.
So Eric says a Republican will be the next.
I got a problem with it. Go ahead.
The next governor. I think the Republican, if it's John James, I think he will. What do they call that? Win place and then show. I think John James will come in third place, personally, but I guess we'll see what happens.
So who do you think will come in first place?
I'm not sure he'll come in first place. I believe Jocelyn Benson, when this thing gets going, will be a force to be reckoned with. But we'll see. Maybe she won't. Maybe she'll wilt.
She'll have money. She'll have money from Stephen Ross.
We shall see. The best thing that Democrats and Independent has is John James. He helps them.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll see. It could be very close. I mean, I don't rule out Duggan. It's very early in the race.
Sure.
I can say this: if it's next August and Duggan is polling really poorly, I think the Democratic Party is really going to put a full court press on him to drop out. But it's a long race. He's got big Republicans and Democrats behind him. He's got big money behind him. I'm sure he'll have Dan Gilbert. He's got Bill Ford behind him. He's got people. He's got Dan Gilbert, Pete Carmanos, Roger Penske. He's got some money. He doesn't have a name outstate like in the UP and Grand Rapids, but he's working on it. He's a machine. He's a politician, so I wouldn't rule him out either. Jocelyn Benson either. I mean, I know.
I
we've
didn't
talked
say she would
about
win. I
Garland
said she would be a
Gilchrist.
force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
And Dorian believes
I
that
got what
Duggan
you're
will win.
saying, Jim.
We've talked about Garland Gilchrist, and then the other Democratic candidate for governor is Sheriff Swanson out of Genesee County, who's polling pretty low at the moment. He's got that area of Flint. He's popular in that area, but outside of that, he was doing commercials for Kamala during the 2024 campaign. And I think he spoke at the DNC, but I don't see him coming to the forefront either. So,
Well, G Money Hollywood has made a very interesting comment, and I'm going to read it. He said, Mike Duggan has charisma over Detroit, just like President Clinton had charisma over the Black community nationwide. In the end, the communities didn't get ahead. No difference. Duggan has the media. What do you have to say about that, Jim? I'll take Jim before I take Allan.
I'm sorry, what's the question again?
The statement was Duggan has charisma over Detroit like President Clinton had charisma over the Black community nationwide. In the end, the communities didn't get ahead. No difference. Duggan has the media.
I don't have to add anything to that. I'm good.
What about you, Allan?
I'm not going to speak for everybody here. Do I think? Look, Detroit is I don't know what percentage of white and Black vote or whatever, but we're in a majority Black city. Duggan has had 3 terms. He's gotten reelected the last term. I think he won by Anthony Adams like 74% to whatever the difference.
Wasn't even a race. I don't even know why you.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
He didn't even debate the guy.
I guess the question is, are there any Black people in Detroit who are better off since Duggan's in office? I'm going to say yes. And to make a blanket statement to say no Black people are better off at all, I'll disagree with that. But has he done? I mean, people complain that Obama, that he didn't do enough for Black people. Look, the city still needs a lot of help, and whoever wins this race, which is probably going to be Mary Sheffield after 4 years, you think she's going to have it all? Like, everything's going to be spit polished, and everything's going to be.
She's not going to be the media darling that she is now. I just don't.
Well, she does well.
I just don't see it. She makes 1-2 mistakes, it's over for her. She's not going to get the same kind of love that Duggan gets from the media. It's just not going to. I just don't believe it. Now, when you said that, did you think that some Black people benefited as a result of Duggan being in office? I'm going to say I know people who said yes. They say their property values went up. I have no reason not to believe that. So there was some benefits. I'm not saying everything that he did was not beneficial. I'm saying there's some good and there's some bad there. And he's running on the picture that he's painted is not a full picture. I'm sorry. It's not. So,
well,
listen, I have not made a decision because it's not here yet. I haven't made a decision as to who I will vote for governor. But I will tell you this: there are some expectations there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Allan.
No, I agree with you. Look, it's some people have not done better. Some neighborhoods have not done better. Some neighborhoods have done better. Some, it's easy to sort of pick and choose and make blanket statements, and we can certainly say it's not everybody's benefited, and some have. And but I moved back here from DC in 2011, and I remember driving down Woodward and going, wow, before there was any development, and thinking, wow, I forgot how run down. And then within and look, without Dan Gilbert, Duggan would not have had the level of success that he had. I mean, Dan Gilbert gobbled up tons of skyscrapers and built everything. I mean, when you go downtown now, there's a little bit of Michigan Avenue in Chicago down there for what it's worth. There's an Apple store, there's a Nike store, there's restaurants, there's foot traffic, there's people going to clubs now. And when you used to go back in the old days, you go downtown at night on a Saturday, and the only thing happening was and maybe a couple little spots here and there. But for the most part, downtown was non-existent.
So, but let's say this though, a lot of the things that we see here downtown, a lot of those things were in place to happen before he even came into office.
Somewhere.
He's getting credit for things that Kilpatrick had put in place. Now, people could say what they want to say about Kilpatrick, but it's true. Some of the things that Kilpatrick did, he benefited from the mayor that was before him. So,
Hey, we got to let our friends go. We're taking too much of their time here.
I wanted to say Dan Gilbert. I think Dan Gilbert didn't move his people in until after Kwame left in 2008. I think Dan Gilbert didn't bring his people in from like Farmington or whatever till 2010 or 11 or something like that.
Thank everybody, Vanessa.
Yeah.
Everybody that tuned in.
I want to thank everybody. Mr. Duckett, we didn't get to your comment, but we'll address it Friday. Somebody will address it Friday when they come on. Friday when Detroit Black and White comes on Friday evening at 8:30 to 9:30. Thank all of you guys for watching. Thank all of you guys for participating. I'm thanking you in advance for telling all your people about the greatest show on these YouTube streets. We'll see you again Friday evening, 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. And then again Saturday morning from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Thank you so much.
And our leader will be back Friday, so give him some support, friends, please.
All right. Peace. Bye.